Linda is with us in Roanoke, Virginia. Hi, Linda. Welcome to the Ramsey Show.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. What's up?
Okay, so I'm currently 64 years old, so is my husband. I make about 115, my husband makes about 45, and we still owe 180 on our house, and he is not on board with paying the house off. And he thinks that we should just make... Evidently, he just does not want to pay the house off, and I've kind of tried to put my foot down and say, when we retire, we're not going to have a house payment because we're going to have to sell it and downsize. Well, he's definitely not on board with that, and I don't really know how to get him on board. And I did listen to one of your podcasts, and where the conversation was about somebody not being on board, and I think Delaney said, this is not a finance problem, this is a marriage problem, and I think that's probably a lot closer than anything.
I'm sorry. How long y'all been married?
29 years.
How much have you got in your retirement accounts?
My retirement is about, my 401 is probably about 175.
Mm-hmm.
I have $1,000 in my emergency fund. I have 2 rental properties that I'm in the process of paying off. I just paid off 2 of our cars.
What are the rental properties worth?
Together about $200,000.
Mm-hmm. And what's your home worth?
But my home right now it's worth $180.
And you owe $180?
Yes, we owe $180.
And it's worth $180.
Well, no, we owe $180. It's probably worth about $400.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense. Okay.
Yeah, it's worth about $400.
Does your husband have any money in investments at all?
No, and he doesn't participate in any of my rental properties either.
Yeah, you got a pretty significant challenge going on in your marriage.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Even the language that you're using, my rental properties, his stuff doesn't do anything. Yeah, y'all got yourselves a mess. Why won't he? How long has he not participated? Have y'all been living separate lives?
Well, we put money. We have separate accounts, and we have a house account. Our house account goes for all of the things that we use, groceries, all the bills, and then we have a savings account that we put money into to go for anything major, like fixes and water heaters or whatever we need to put.
That's exactly the situation I had set up with Buddy and Craig, my 2 college roommates. That's not a wife or a husband. That's not a marriage. That's a couple of dudes that's a couple of roommates.
This is probably true.
How long has this been going on?
29 years.
29 years.
Whew.
Yeah. So when I bought the first rental property, he did not want any part of it. I sell real estate on the side also, besides being a nurse. And so he didn't want any part of that one. And so I've just been renting it. I only owe $12,000 on it, so I'm getting ready to pay it off next. And then I bought another property. My daughter-in-law, who had cancer, was living in a horrible situation. So I went ahead and bought a house for her to live in, which is right near me, so I could kind of help take care of her. And that property is probably, I owe about 62 on that one, and I'm hoping to get that paid because I'm snowballing everything.
Wow. I'm not sure exactly what to tell you, Linda. This is so painful. You guys are so disconnected. It's almost as if your little brother who had a mental disability was living with you, and you go and do everything in spite of him. Because he's not on board with rental property. I did it anyway. He's not on board with taking care of the kid that had cancer, but I did it anyway. And he's not on board with this, but I did it anyway. He's not on board with saving money, but I did it anyway. And I'm the only one that has any assets, but I did it anyway. And he makes a fourth of what you make, and he did it anyway. And yet you guys split the mustard in the refrigerator. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to do with this except beg you guys to, but guess what? It's not going to work because, tell you to go see a marriage counselor, but guess what? He's not on board. He's not going to do that.
What is he on board with?
Yeah, what is it? What does he like?
he likes his comfy job, and he likes just living the way he lives.
What does that mean?
Well, I mean, he goes to work, he comes home, he goes to play golf whenever he gets a chance. That's pretty much it.
Here's, oh man, this is going to be an unpopular. It's going to get me in trouble with the internet, and that's fine. Here's what you have to decide. Am I going to, it's been this way for 30 years, and this is going to be this way for another 30 years. And I'm going to keep plugging along and doing my thing, and I'm going to head on down the road because this is the life that I walked into. Or I'm going to cause a ruckus in my living room.
Turn on the lights.
And I'm going to say, this ends today. I hope you will come with me.
I'm going to a marriage counselor.
Right. And as a part of going to a marriage counselor, I'm going to learn that I have value and partnership, and I can't do all this by myself. And I can't keep dragging you, and you can't keep using me as your bank, and you can't keep using me as your sugar mama. I need a husband. I don't need another child. And that might mean that I'm out. That might mean I'm whatever. But I think you have to make that decision for yourself. And if you decide this is the life I got, it's annoying, but it is what it is, make peace with it and move on down the road.
Yeah. In which case, you're probably selling your 2 rental properties to pay off your home. Because if he won't sign the deed, you can't sell that home. And you have $180,000, and you don't have $180,000 to pay it off. You have $175,000 in your 401k, and I guess he's going to retire and eat out of your retirement. Because he doesn't have any retirement and you do. And I guess the rental properties that you're going to sell to pay off your residence, if you attempt to make peace with it, it's going to continue to have poor results in your finances because you're going to have to work around him again. And in order to do that, you can't sell the house, so you've got to pay it off. And can't pay it off with your retirement because you don't have enough. So I guess those rental properties are going to be sold. You're going to pay it off if you stay in this. But I wish I had found you 28 years ago. I would have highly encouraged you to go to a marriage counselor and deal with this. I don't think you're going to do that now because I think if you were going to do that, you would have done it a long time ago. I don't feel like I can help her. I feel like she's so far in that she's probably going to stay in that soup, right? But what I would tell you is this, if you're listening, and John, you can throw in, whatever whether you agree or not, and so forth. But we have an inordinate number of people in their 20s listening to this show, and watching this YouTube, and watching us on television, and so forth. If you are considering entering into a marriage, a lifelong commitment with someone, and you don't first make sure that you're in agreement and going to commit to stay and adjust in agreement on the subject of money, in-laws, because there's crazy in one of your families or both your family, kids, how many to have, how to treat them, are the inmates going to run the asylum or what, and religion. These are the 4 things that the data tells us. If you're in agreement on these 4 things before you're married, you have an inordinate probability. I mean, like 90 percentile probability of staying married happily through your life. But people that are not in agreement on religion, in-laws, kids, and money live desperate, weird, toxic lives and are ineffective at all 4 of those areas. They're ineffective in their spiritual walk. They're ineffective with their money and wealth building. They're ineffective parents. And they're even ineffective family members to their extended family because they're not in agreement. I'm gonna help my mama even if you don't want me to. They're not in agreement. And you live your life in angst because you don't have alignment on these basic things. Please, for God's sake, don't call it love to marry someone that you are not aligned with like that. It's not love. It's drugs. It's alcohol. It's something.
It's permanent roommate.
It's lust. Yeah. But you're gonna end up with a roommate that you don't like.
I think beneath those 4 things is equally important because I'm thinking about this. Like on all 4 issues, my wife and I were aligned, and we are different on a number, probably 3 of the 4, maybe 4 of the 4. This 21 years later, I think being in alignment out the gate, and equally important, being aligned with how are we going to act? What's our process for when we get cross? Because you will get cross. I want to help mom. I don't want to help your mom. All right. Now the alignment is, do you just do what you're going to do? How do we set this problem in front of us and we tackle it together? And you got to have a plan to go forward. In that last call, I don't want you retiring. I don't want to downsize. I don't want to do this. I don't do this. I just want to play golf. And you make 3 times what I make, so I'm just going to take the money and we're going to put it all in the same pot. Man, that's a dude that's cashed out, right? That's a guy that there was no alignment, not only on issues, but on how do we actually solve problems when they pop up in our marriage? And they pop up in every marriage.
Yeah. If you're listening to this show and you're 24 and you're dating and you don't take a clue from how miserable that lady is, that's what we want you to do. That's why we're coming back to this, is we go, you have got to make this a priority. It's not a business transaction. It's a values transaction. Because when you can agree on your money, you've agreed on your dreams, you've agreed on your fears, you've agreed on your life. And when you can't agree on your money, you're not agreeing on the basics of life.
And you won't sleep. And you will not ever have peace. Not by yourself, not with your friends, not with anybody. It haunts you. It haunts you.
It increases the likelihood of addictions. It increases the likelihood of sexual dysfunction in the marriage. It increases all of this. Okay, so these things are so intricately tied together that you guys have got to be grown-ups. Quit. This is not a Hallmark movie, doofus.
And
this
by
is
the way,
your life.
On my show, people call in and they're so nervous. If I say what I need out loud, he might leave. And my response is always, well, good. You deserve more than that. And I know you're going to be lonely, and I know it's scary, and I know it's frustrating. And there's a great comedian. He said the worst part about breaking up long-term relationships is there's no equity rollover. You can't tell it's Michael Che. You can't tell your new girlfriend, hey, I went to her wedding, her sister's wedding. I ain't going to this one. Like, I get to carry that over.
You don't get to carry.
You got to start
forward.
over again. I get that. It's terrible. And the alternative is you spend the next 30 years looking at your bank account, so scared to death you can't breathe, and you look over there and there's this lump on a couch getting his golf shoes on.
Yeah. For God's sakes, if you look up and you're completely misaligned, you're going to, you're not going to end up liking them. They're not going to end up liking you at the end of the story. So
you're going to resent them.
You might as well just call it now.
Yeah.
I mean, early. And before you end up in marriage, before so please, folks, and for those of you that have got young marriages, you've been married 2 or 3 years and you're struggling to get aligned on these things, go sit down with a marriage counselor. For God's sakes, if you wanted to lose weight and become fit, you would hire a personal trainer. So why can't you hire a marriage trainer?
Or if your breath smells bad, you go to the dentist, a professional.
Yeah. Why can't you hire a marriage trainer? Maybe a good start for that is come to the Marriage and Money Weekend that we're doing with John Deloney and Rachel Cruz. That's coming up in
October.
In October. I'm looking around here trying to figure out the date. But that's
19 through 21, yeah.
Thank you. I'm trying to grab the cheat sheet so I'll get my act together here. But, yeah, okay. 19 through 21 here in Nashville. It'll be at the Ramsey Event Center. I didn't even think about that. But you could come do that weekend. That weekend's going to be pretty intense.
I think ultimately, in fact, I was doing a podcast earlier today.
Could somebody do that weekend as a pre-marriage thing?
You could.
You could.
Okay. And here's why. Because you're going to be surrounded by people who've been married for 25 years and for 15 years. And so you're going to get to see some couples down the road. And I think when people
catch them at the break and have a cup of coffee, yeah,
that's right. Or you can listen to
the
challenges they're having.
The content's not inappropriate for pre-marriage.
No, goodness
okay.
no.
Okay.
No. If you said I do, come on in.
Okay. Or you're about to.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, avoidance cannot be a strategy. It can't. Avoidance when you're dating. Avoidance. I'm just not going to look at my budget.
Well, the thing I always think about Les Parrott when he says, and Dr. Les Parrott says, when you have these strong feelings about something and you bury them, they have a high rate of resurrection.
They will show up.
They'll pop back out, and they come back out in the most inopportune ways, the most inopportune moments, and it takes another 5 years of therapy to figure out why they're coming out sideways.
And why you're yelling at your kid when actually it's a decision back over here, whatever the thing is. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So please, folks, please do not move forward in these relationships. If you're sitting there and you're in a 3-year marriage, cause a ruckus. I'm not going to tell you what John says. I'm not going to tell you to go with the possibility of make peace with it. Don't make peace with it. You've been there for 3 years. Raise hell. Get in a marriage counselor's office. Raise hell about it. We're going to get on the same page, or I'm going to everybody's going to be miserable, and I'm going to be the cause until we get on the same page. This is not okay. I'm not going to live like this. The worm has turned. Cause a ruckus. Get in there and do the work and figure this out and find your voice. And, you can be as loud or whatever. You don't need to be loud, but you can be as bold or raw as you want to be, but cause a ruckus. It's worth it because it's the only method to get to healing.
And let me make this statement to my fellow gentlemen out there. You can cheat on your wife with a golf club, and you can commit infidelity with your job. And so this idea that, well, I'm all good, I'm following the rules, I don't participate, I don't do nothing, that's cheating. That is cashing out.
Yeah,
it's leaving your wife even though you're sleeping in the same house.
Well, it's a manhood crisis, the wussification of America. You're acting like a little boy instead of a man. Throw your shoulders back and serve your family, you self-centered twerp. This is The Ramsey Show.